Good morning. This is Ginger from Cult of Gemini, and I am here with my new friend Gabe Merihue, who is, what do you call yourself? Magician, witch?
A lot of different things, depending on the context. Yeah. Magician, witch, sorcerer, psychic, intuitive. I don't really care myself. It just matters who I'm talking to because I think they're all a little different and I think they're all a little bit the same and I think I'm a little bit of all of them. I'm more of some than the others, but I'm a lot of things. Yeah.
Awesome. So we have a couple of classes coming up. We've got crafting sigils class and then chakras for witches. I'm so excited about both of them. But right now we're going to talk about sigils class. So most of our audience has probably heard of sigils, but maybe I'll let you do the thing.
Sure, yeah. Well, the description of sigils can be really simple because that's sort of the idea behind sigils is really trying to simplify an approach to magic, and at the same time personalize it. So it sort of comes from this movement where there were all these, massive traditions of like, here's how you do things, do it this way or you will fail or become possessed by demons or whatever. And the sigils came forward, in a couple of waves, but they came forward kind of out of that expression of a personal form of magic that was then transferable to other people, that they could take the technique, this sort of tradition, the ideas of how sigils were made, and then do something very personal with it. So, since those early days of sigils and the sort of revival of sigils in chaos magic in like the 70s and beyond, there's a lot of approaches to sigils out there now. And yeah, it's leaked into witchcraft even, and there's even like I've read very traditional feeling and sounding witchcraft books that are just like this. I'm talking about the ancient ways, and this is how we would do it since the beginning of time. And then right in the middle of it, they're like, and so insert a sigil here.
And you're like,
I'm like, well, that's sort of that's newer. At
so,
least our use of the term
okay.
in those ways is newer, and certainly our interesting, creative, artful ways of coming about sigils is seemingly new. I don't know of any records from the past that talk about how we're using sigils now.
And so you, in your study and research, have a line between witchcraft and magic.
A line?
Or they're like two things that were separate and have meshed, or...
I like how one of my teachers put it. It's just two different conversations. If we're having a scholarly conversation, yeah, let's draw lines between everything and pin it to walls and put diagrams and stuff like that.
Yes.
But when it comes to practice, there can be lines between these things, but to a large degree, the person, right, the being that is the magic doing the magic. Dissolves those lines, and there's pros and cons to everything. So we can learn to maintain those lines within ourselves, but we can also learn to dissolve those lines, maintaining them too much, and we miss out on things. Dissolving them, and we go crazy in some ways. Like so. There's a fine line. I wouldn't say that I personally distinguish between them. In fact, I'm probably more on the bandwagon of like, it's all the same stuff. I don't truly totally believe that. I just feel like we need a little bit more of that now because there's so much of a push for like tradition and all of that, which I love, don't get me wrong. I like to remind people that they live now and it's them that's doing this magic right now. And it's important to be aware of their personal creativity, this is getting more into the chakra class, but their relationship with creation is what magic and ritual is all about for me. That's just how I phrase it for the chakra course. Sigils touch on that so directly, though, right? Because you can bring in traditional approaches, and you also are forced to be creative. There's a point in every sigil construction where like everyone's inner artist is either thriving or like totally confronted and like, oh, I didn't know there was going to be art involved, you know, depending on where you're at with that.
That's me. I'm the second one.
Oh, good.
This is a mess.
It's
what
perfect.
am I doing?
Yeah. And that's what I love about it. It's very simple. You don't need, you know, a 13-year initiation to start practicing sigils. And the other thing is that they're extremely effective. They're scary effective for a number of people. Again, you know, different people get different results with different approaches.
Sure.
But generally speaking, I mean, you can talk to almost anyone that's just like gone online and Googled sigils and followed someone's blog's instructions on sigils and been like, wow, and something happened.
Yeah.
It's an entry point into again, touching on the chakra course. One of the things that we go into is the energy of certainty. Sigils help to cultivate an energy of certainty. Again, pros and cons to certainty, which that's for the course, but
right.
You know, it's a very involved topic. But you know, getting to that point where you're practicing magic because you know that magic works. You may not know how or why or what's going to happen in a given situation, right?
Well, that is the interesting thing. You're like, this is my intention for magic, and then you get something back. And you're like, huh. Wow, that's not okay. And then maybe some people shut down and they're like, I'm not doing that again.
Oh, some people get amazing results and it scares them completely.
Yeah.
And you know, they start wearing crosses and going to church and so forth, right? They get another kind of certainty to block out the confrontation with a difficult reality.
Totally. Or sometimes you're like, oh wow, I see how what I said, I see what you think I mean. And then you get a lot more clear with your language.
And that's the beautiful thing. That again is touching more on the chakra course, because the chakra course is about the life of magic and creativity, the ongoing conversation that we're having with the universe, with ourselves, with the universe, however metaphysically you want to define what's actually going on. I mean, the words fail us, or you know,
they're just
lock
what
us in
does
or
Eckhart
whatever.
say? It just points to it. It isn't
Right, the finger
it.
pointing to the moon, the map, not the terrain. And yet, words can, I would say words can be more than a map. Words can be more than a map. They can contain an energy, right? They can contain a magical energy.
Yeah.
Similar to a sigil, well-constructed words can actually facilitate the unfolding of a creation. Just the words themselves, right? And there's study, you know, neurolinguistic programming, there's all kinds of things about transinduction through using certain phraseology and so forth, right? So words have an incredible power as well, beyond just being maps.
And so in this short sigil class
Sigils,
of 2.5 hours, what will we do?
We're gonna we'll talk a little bit of history of sigils and just the sort of I mean, I'm sure there's all kinds of sigil stuff going on I've never heard of. There's always more with these things, right? There's someone here that's written a book on, you know, doing crazy sigils in this other way. I've gathered and experimented with a lot of different approaches to sigils, and so I'll just sort of take us through a progression of sigil practice, and we'll make, you know, we'll sort of do what might be considered a traditional, you know, modern sigil, and then look at ways we can vary our approach to that, and then look at other ways of coming up with the sigils, and then look at a lot of different ways of casting the sigils, right? You can cast sigils with earth, with water, with fire, with air, with spirit, with mantra. You know, there's like so many approaches that you can use with sigils. So we'll touch on a lot of those. We'll do some sigils in the class just to get a sense of that, and make use of the group dynamic, which is you know, what the coven energy, so to speak.
Oh, that keeps coming up.
Right, yeah. Group dynamics are interesting. Again, pros and cons.
Pros and cons. I'm trying to focus on the pros.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely focus on the pros, especially when it comes to groups. It's the only way to help a group.
Right.
Because groups are problems.
It's a problem waiting to be helped.
Yeah.
Groups. It's not about sigil stuff. That's
Yeah, going into groups. Yeah, so the sigils, I mean, what more can be said? Like, there's a lot of approaches, there's this sort of crunchy, like sort of number crunchy approach to making sigils, which I think is fun. Like it forces you to like squeeze your psyche through the gears of understanding what it is you're trying to create. And then there's the polar extreme of like I'm channeling a sigil, or like having a vision of a sigil. There's crafting sigils to cast a spell. There's creating sigils to contain an energy that could be an ongoing sort of spell or energy reference. There's creating sigils. There's taking that same example, taking it further and turning it into like a servitor or an entity, imbuing it with some level of autonomy to do your will in the world.
I have not heard it. Well, I mean, golems is maybe the closest.
It touches on stuff like that. Yeah. So sigils have a number of approaches, but in general, sigils have been used a lot for that kind of, I guess you could call it like the creation of spirits, or the empowering of spirits.
The Bruja is not going to be excited about what I unleash in here. There are going to be things that happen, people. Erica's going to try to clear them all out.
Right.
She's going to be like, fucking Geminis, what are you doing in
here?
Right. Every Friday I come in, it is a havoc of spirits in here.
Yeah.
We're like, we're cool with them. She's like, not all of them. I'm like, I don't know. It's probably okay.
Yeah. Well, that's good. You balance each other out.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah,
a little bit. Awesome. So we hope you join us. Yeah. I'm not going to say the date, but it will be in the notes of the video, wherever I post this thing, which...
Everywhere.
Instagram channel, we're going to work with that. And then also probably on YouTube and Facebooks, all of the things. So we hope you join us, and thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.